Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Class 1A podcast, where today we're diving into episode 15 of My Hero Academia Season 6. All three of us are back together. I'm your host, Andrew Nimsgren, and I have Dylan Beal and James Graham with me to dive into everything that happened. Guys, we are seeing a major tonal shift in the season after an all-out battle the first, 12, 13 episodes. How are you guys feeling after this initial tone before we dive into everything else?
Feeling good. I like this. I think it's sick. I like whenever My Hero does this like tone shift and things get a little bit dark. I feel like we've had that in little spurts throughout the series, but um I don't know. Like we're getting towards the end of the series. Things are getting a little bit dark.
Yeah, we're getting the evil arc now. We're gonna get the darkest timeline arc. It's gonna be sick. This isn't no kiddie anime anymore.
Yeah.
This is no shonen. Not a chance.
We're killing kids.
We're killing kids.
Let's
No
go.
kids have died yet. Okay, we haven't gotten that far yet. But no, I agree. I love the new tone shift. I'm happy that it's kind of going down that way. So let's do a very, very tight recap and dive into thoughts. A lot of things happened that we want to talk about here. So pretty much as a high overview, if you were watching this a little bit later than today, what happened is one, we learned more about Tartarus, how it's a high prison. There's 6 different cell blocks. Pretty much the lowest of the low is down like 500 meters underground. Pretty much impenetrable is what we think. Shigaraki and the Nomu actually attack Tartarus, and using a sync EMP blast with Shigaraki's body, All For One's body, all hell breaks loose. All the villains escape, and we see a bunch of villains from the previous episodes of the season. We see Muscular, we see Overhaul, we see a bunch of other people that we'll be diving into in a second. But pretty much Shigaraki / All For One says, hey, follow me and you will be free from this island. They go out and break like out 6 other prisons. Thousands and thousands of villains are now free and just causing havoc all across the country. Back in the hospital side, we kind of start seeing the kind of aftermath of the hero side of the battle, kind of seeing of how a lot of people are very defeated. Like, even though we did everything, especially kind of Mike and Aizawa, it still didn't turn out very well. But everyone seems to be recovering just fine. Bakugo wakes up with his injuries, moving a lot more than he should. We see Kaminari got a little bit injured. We see Todoroki can't really talk right now, but he is still recovering. The only person yet to wake up is Deku, and we don't really know why. And they say he shows no signs of waking up. Only that last little thing is that we see Endeavor's in surgery with a bunch of people outside calling for his resignation. Someone called him a tax fraud, which I thought was a very interesting subtitle in the episode, and a bunch of things. And we see that the Todoroki family shows up to the hospital. So that's kind of the 2 sides of the episode. A lot of smaller things that we'll dive into here. But I think let's start at the top of the episode with everything Tartarus. I mean, let's talk about Shiggy AFO here. We're seeing a lot of interesting dynamics that started in the war and now is really taking the next step here. Where do we think this is going?
Yeah, James and I were talking about this a little bit, and we were like, "Hey, what's going on with AFO? Is he pulling one over on Shigaraki, or like what's going on?" And I think this kind of confirms it that he is, because it seems like he's just like stealing Shigaraki's body at this point, right? Like especially because we have the scene of like the vestige world of AFO where he's like looming over and Shigaraki's literally just tied up.
Yeah, it does. It does very feel like he's not like he's right in the sense that he isn't a pawn, but because he's just gonna consume him, sort of thing, and basically inhabit this next body, which I think for AFO is pretty on brand. Like I'm not surprised by that move at all. I think it was just, but they did deliver it in a good way. So like, yeah, and now I think like it seems like we're just gonna be met with this power struggle between the two of them for the foreseeable future, which I think will be super sick, because you're just gonna have this all powerful force that isn't super stable. So I think that'll make for some really cool like story direction.
Yeah, and I agree that something's happening here. I mean, even AFO, I think, called Shigaraki like my new self, something like that. I should have wrote down the quote, but there's something of like we kind of refer to Shigaraki as a new version of him almost, rather than like the next generation of All For One. So I definitely think you guys are kind of going the right thing there too. And what do you guys kind of think? I know I missed an episode or 2, but what do you think about this whole kind of feeling bad for Shigaraki part? Obviously, Deku at the end of the war arc said, I saw you, like kind of that savior vibe we get a lot. Now we see Shigaraki's kind of being chained up. Is it getting to you? Are you feeling bad for Shigaraki or not quite yet?
I feel bad for Shigaraki, but I don't think he's good, if that makes sense. And that's only because like I feel bad because we circle back on this, like I feel like every couple episodes of like Shigaraki just being a victim of his circumstance, right? Like
Yeah.
he was just a kid when all this happened. AFO like basically like set it all up, and he's just controlled Shigaraki. So it's really not a fault of his own. Like he's really been groomed for this. So I feel bad for him in that way. But also like his main purpose before like AFO started taking him over very literally was he wanted to destroy everything still. So like yeah, maybe he wants to be saved, but he still is like all things considered probably like the second worst villain of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's not a good dude.
No. And I think even, I don't know if it was with Deku's monologue this episode and last episode, I don't remember exactly which one, but Deku said what woke Shigaraki wasn't that little shock, but it was his pure and eternal hatred that woke him up. Like, that's what I kind of mean. So, like, he's still not a good person. Like, I don't know what Deku's really seen there. I don't love that. I don't want to kind of start feeling bad for, like, no, just kind of, yeah, like, I hope Shigaraki just beats All For One, becomes a true big bad at the end, even more powerful than ever. I don't want this whole kind of pull back and forth for too long. Give us one good villain and let's just push forward with that. Is kind of how I'm feeling at this point.
Yeah, and
to circle back, Dylan, because you asked me medically, can somebody run on hate alone and can you self-administer CPR with hatred? You cannot. I double checked my sources. You cannot do that.
Thank you for checking that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
I was thinking back to some of the earlier seasons. I think it's really interesting because I think that the way that AFO works and that One For All works is exactly the same. Because I think the vestiges that Deku has the same capability if they wanted to control him. And I was thinking about this, and if you think back, because this jump started in my memory because we saw a flashback to the what was the sports festival, right? I was thinking about that, and do you remember when he got paralyzed and he ended up moving?
Yeah,
it makes so much sense now why he moved, because one of them just moved him. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, that's literally what's happening with Shiggy right now, except in full force. So like, we literally have like two sides of the same coin of like One For All For One. Both of them are very, very similar in how they work, and the vestige state is probably very similar. The only difference is AFO wants total control, and all the vestiges in One For All is trying to like give it to everyone. Sorry, going back and forth between those two, but I thought that was super interesting. It was something I thought about today because we saw that flashback in today's episode.
Yeah, that's a really good callback. Actually, I never even really kind of realized that. But moving back on the Tartarus and villain kind of train, we saw a bunch of villains coming back. I think we saw at least the ones that got name cards. We saw Bonefish, we saw Muscular, we saw Overhaul. We've seen a couple other ones. Stain was there for a second too. I don't even know if he got a name card, but Stain was the one up against the wall, kind of looking disheveled a little bit. So, do we think it's going to kind of be a all-out battle now against Deku going up kind of like a boss rush mode? Do we think maybe some of them won't follow All For One? Where do we think it's going to go, bringing this many new characters back into the story at one time?
I think it's going to be chaos. Like, that's the thing that jumps out to me. And I don't think that they're all going to follow because Stain's ideology doesn't align with Shigaraki's or AFO's right now. Like, we even got a call out to that today. From Spinner. So I think it's really interesting that we had that call out from Spinner, and then we immediately like see Stain right afterwards. So okay, sit with me for a second. Enter in the space. Do you think that we could have a splitting of the League of Villains of where like Spinner and like Toga and maybe all the other people are like, hey, we don't like you, AFO, taking over Shiggy. We're gonna go join up with Stain and do our own League of Villains with better ideals?
I don't.
That's a lot going on.
Well, I think the idea like has some merit, but like Stain has never struck me as somebody who wants like a following. He's never one that. Yeah, he doesn't want a posse. He doesn't want his own league, right? Like he's very much like a solo vagabond kind of thing, right? So I feel like if they did try and do that, if they did try and rally around Stain, he would just reject it. Because I think that would be kind of going... Because that, like... I don't know if that almost goes against his kind of code, where he wants to, like, rebuild Hero Society, and I feel like him doing that with an army of people who are like false heroes in themselves. They're they're that inverse, or that like the other side of it, right? Trying to overthrow it. I just can't see that really lining up. Stain has always very struck me as like a solo character sort of thing.
Yeah.
But these are extreme circumstances.
These are extreme circumstances. But he didn't even look like he was super down for like this whole like coup. Like he was like there and he's like, I don't know, boys. Like this is looking kind of sketchy. Like I don't know.
I mean, I know I'm going to talk about it in a second too, so we'll kind of hold on to that for a second. But like with all the character we saw back, even if someone that didn't show up, let's say criminal like Gentle, or if maybe any of the teenager with the gun, like maybe characters that might not have gotten the.
I hope they didn't put them in Tartarus.
Mustard.
We put this kid into the highest security prison of all time.
So let's say, well, no, they broke out 6 other prisons too. So let's say every villain we've ever seen is coming back in. Rather it's a fight, rather it's a moment. What villain are you most excited to see come back in the story? Even if it's for one off episode, what moment do you want to see the most?
Well, now it's Mustard, right? Like you brought it back up.
No, but that's not a meme.
I mean, I think the obvious answer is Gentle. Like we want to see Gentle again because he would just be cool. But like in terms of like bad evil villain, I think that's really tough. But like it has to be Overhaul. I want to see what's going on with Overhaul now that he has no arms. Like what is he gonna do?
Well, we saw, he ran by this like random purple haired chick who's in the opener, and she's got purple hair, so obviously she's like
she'll be a bigger part of this season. She had a line, we all know. We're just holding on to it till the episode she's announced.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm pretty jacked for Muscular. I still like the fan theory that he's like Bakugo's dad or some shit. Like that's that's such a meme to me. But like Muscular was like this really cool like hate-filled character, and like just like super powerful and really unhinged. I thought he was just a really fun villain when he showed up. So it would be kind of cool to see like current level Deku go toe to toe with him, or even somebody else like Sugar Rush or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like just like strength on strength quirks. Those are always so fun. So like yeah.
Muscular would definitely be the one for like a fight that I want to see the most, especially even against Deku too, because Deku was very one-dimensional last time they fought. Kind of seeing how he'd handle him now, I think that would get me very excited. But Stain is the villain I want to see the most, mainly because, again, going back to Vigilantes, he was a vigilante at one point. He's always been a morally gray character, and now 6, 7 prisons have been broken out. Is he going to be kind of a more rogue character playing both sides? Is he going to be someone that could work with Deku for an episode? Or I guess he never really had his moment with All Might. Like, I think there's a lot with Stain that could happen because of how much he was loved early on and how they're still preaching his ideology pretty much throughout the entire seasons through Spinner. I don't think there's like no reason not to bring him back in and not to give him some kind of good interaction with ideally Deku, who was really kind of the first hero he's seen in a long time that was a true hero in his eyes. So I'd love to see kind of how that goes between those guys.
Yeah, just give him a good moment with Deku. He can meet Deku. He shows up. He has his new League of Villains with him. Be good.
Oh my god.
Okay, so like really quick though, now that we're on like a darker mood kind of like arc and stuff like that, I kind of want to see the return of Evil Ida. That guy, he was unhinged. Like I really
the Stain arc one.
The Stain arc Ida, yeah, man. He was just so emo and pissed off. Like,
I just love to see Ida return in general. The man's gotten 8 minutes of screen time in the last 3 seasons. It feels like
such a sin, man. Like I really like Ida as a character, and I think I do
too, but I just don't know where you take his character. Like his brother died. Like he didn't really change too much after it. Like I just don't think there's much room to take his character. That's why he didn't die. But did he die?
He got maimed.
Paralyzed. Whatever.
Yeah.
Good as dead in
the
real world.
Commissioned forever.
Yeah. But
right.
too bad for Ida.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the tonal shift. You kind of just brought it up there, right, too, kind of moving the dark side. Like, let's talk about kind of the hospital side, how everyone's feeling at the hospital, the crowd outside, Hero Society. Let's just kind of open it up more to the hero side and how things are going for them. Dylan, I know you love digging into this stuff. What are your first thoughts on seeing that last 8 minutes of the episode?
It's going terrible. Everyone's upset. No one's happy. The society's screwed. It's burned into the ground. Villains are going out. I think this is I mean, I think this is where we get into the real meat, the real meat of some of the themes, because like we set up with Dobby this whole thing of like you can't trust Endeavor, like because he's a bad dude, he's a hero, but he's like kind of basically doing villainous stuff. So like, how can you trust him? And he's supposed to be the number one hero in this society now, and we know that Endeavor's always been on shaky terms with the public, and so like, regardless of the fact that Dobby was also undermined the second that Genus showed up, there's still going to be a lot of commotion around that. I think that we're going to have to reckon with that before we can really start picking up the pieces of anything of like what's going on with the Hero Society. All of our heroes are one, they're failing, like they lost the war. Like even though like they were able to get the jump on them and everything, all things considered, they lost the war. Every single villain is broken out at this point. The public can't trust them. I can't imagine all the prisons are broken out and things aren't terrible in the streets. So I just think we have to reckon with that. And I don't know how they do it. It's going to be really tough because no one trusts Endeavor. The only thing I can think of is someone else has to rise to the occasion now to kind of start bringing that together. Is it Deku? Do people really want a kid to be like, hey, everyone, I'm just a kid from high school. I'm going to save the day. It's very anime, so that might be it. But it also could be another one of the heroes kind of taking up the mantle of number one, even if they aren't literally number one. And obviously the one that jumps out to me is the only one who is not maimed or dead or anything is Genus. But Genus isn't really.
He got hurt pretty bad too, though.
Yeah, Genus got pretty fucked up. Like
I don't think he's out of commission the same way that a lot of other people.
No, he's not having surgery done or Hawks, but he's.
But yeah,
I mean, Bakugo level probably.
Yeah, but like that's like you're still able to get up and talk, is what I mean, of like facing the public that way. So he's the only one I could really see right now because he's the number 3 hero being able to pick up any of those pieces because people don't trust Hawks, people don't trust Endeavor, they don't trust anybody, and then all the other powerful people are literal kids. And so, you have 2 choices in front of you. Do you take the shonen route or do you take the base route and go with Genus? You know where I stand. The number 1 back to back best Genus of all time.
It's about time. I mean, so if Deku did monologue about how they said so little about him, like Bakugo and Todoroki last episode, about how nothing was pretty much written about them, I would say, hey, we're getting a public one for all announcement in the next couple episodes. I don't think we are because clearly they covered up the involvement. But like if there were like whispers, or if we saw like whispers on like TV today in this episode of like, hey, there's some mysterious hero that came to the rescue and stuff kind of like that, I think that maybe Deku could have stepped up saying, hey, this sounds crazy, but I am the next All Might. I am here. But I don't think that's quite where it's going to go. Well,
how do you explain that to the public? They're like, all right, listen.
How do you explain all for one? Okay, but just say, hey, you get all for one?
How do you even explain it to the public?
Well, I mean, people understand how all for one works. He could take powers and do it, saying, hey, instead of taking powers, this one is just handed down for generations. It's a generational quirk. That's how you explain it. This is a generational quirk that gets stronger every single time. I am the 8th user. All Might had it before. Here he is right here saying that he had it before and gave it to me. I am All Might now. I am going to save the day. I don't think that's going to happen, but that could have been a route they took if they would have like put rumors out there of Deku doing a lot in that fight. But now I don't think it makes any sense. Plus, we saw him kind of in a rogue-like look at the beginning. It clearly doesn't look like an All Might outfit at all. It looks like he's actually going down a dark path. So I think that would have been really cool and very interesting how they would have took that though.
He's not buff enough.
Yeah, that's just it. He doesn't have muscle form.
He's the only all for one user that was buff. Every other one was just in good shape. Deku's in good shape. None of them were huge.
Okay, listen, Banjo dude.
We've seen Deku's sick pack, first off. So he's in good shape.
He's okay, listen, he's cut.
He's
not ripped. Freshman in high school. He's in pretty good shape for a freshman in high school.
What's his face? Sugar Rush?
Yeah, but he eats sugar. He can lift 3,000 pounds. I don't think he's a good comparison.
Like, people have more to believe him, man. Jesus.
All right.
It's about the look, Andrew.
It is. I'm genuinely surprised that Dylan didn't make that same fucking rant about Best Genus and just switched it with Wash because they're also like a top 10 hero.
Dude, Wash didn't get any time in an entire war arc. That man is never going to be relevant. We didn't even see him.
Okay, 2 things. First of all, We don't know what wash is.
We do not know the
So
verb.
jot
That is
that down.
true.
Number two, you don't know what kind of business that they got up to. Number
Yeah,
three,
Wash
put some
might have been
respect on their name.
No.
Number
I
four,
would
how
not.
dare you?
I'm just looking forward to next week. I didn't look at the previews. I don't look at previews. I really should since we do a podcast so we can
Why
talk
did you-
about what's
yeah.
coming
I
up
don't.
next. I
I
never
don't
watch the
either.
preview.
I don't like to
But-
spoil myself.
This screams keeping up the Todoroki's next episode. All of them walking in. We don't get to see the mom officially walking in. Endeavor's in deep water. Like, it just screams 25 minutes of the Todorokis talking to each other. And that's it. We have 11 episodes left this season. And Deku's passed out. He's not going to wake up in the first 5 minutes of next episode. So let's just spend 25 minutes talking to the Todorokis.
Passionate.
What else
So-
could we do?
I
So
really
for the spoil or for the preview, I'm pretty sure the next episode has the Todorokis in the episode
Hell
name.
yeah.
So
I think it's like the Hellish Todorokis. If I remember the
It's-
manga
it's
chapter,
the
I
Hellish
think it's
Todorokis
called the
part
Hellish
2.
Todorokis. Yeah.
Yeah, man, why didn't we just take that name? It's not keeping up the Todorokis. I don't know.
I
I
like keeping up the Todorokis. It's better. But
I
yeah,
will
that's
say-
all next week's going to be. And I'm excited to see where that goes, though. I love that. And I think this is going to be a big moment for everyone in that family.
Do you think that's what eventually is going to wake Deku up? His need to just be someone's psychiatrist?
he needs to be a
Someone needs
mediator, that's
help.
what-
Yeah, Todoroki can't talk. I need to go talk for Todoroki.
One moment I really did want to call out that I really loved is we had a great Bakugo moment.
Oh,
He
it
better
choked me
not
up
be
at the
dead or I'll
very end of
kill
the
him.
episode.
It better not
Oh
be
my
dead or I'll
god, that
kill him.
choked me up. I almost let a tear out for that one, and I'm like, that was unexpected. But when that happened, this whole episode, phenomenal toning. Like, we knew this was going to be a bit of a slower kind of part here. It's a very slow arc based off the manga, but they're nailing the tone. The voice actors are doing amazing. The little bit of music in the background, like, they're going to make what is a very slow arc into such an emotional and deep arc, it feels like, that I cannot wait to see these next 3 episodes, despite them not being my favorite when reading through them. So I cannot wait, and I have not choked up for My Hero in a long time, but this episode almost got me.
I think I choked up last week. I think yeah, last week was bad too. Really? You didn't choke up at all last week?
Oh, with
I
the
mean, I was
music?
kind of feeling, a Midnight's Death, I don't give a shit. They did her so dirty. We talked about this going into this season of
They did,
how much
yeah.
I am unhappy with that. I didn't care about that. The only thing I felt emotional about a little bit, I think it was because it was so late last night. I watched like at 2 a.m. last night. Was when we got that great shot of the hero saying, "I need to find a different line of work." That was a really good tonal set.
that
So I
was-
think watching that going right into this episode, like 5 hours apart, that whole tone, those 2 episodes are very on par. And I just think it built up to the end of this one. But very, very good tonage. I think some of the best My Hero's ever done. I don't think they've ever set a tone like this before, this well.
In a while, at least. Yeah, in recent seasons for sure.
But I think that leaves us with one thing left, which is going to be the Plus Ultra Award. And I really don't know where this one's going to go. So I'm going to leave it to Dylan first, because we always know he's going to have the worst take.
No,
and
it's
then
it's
we
easy.
can
I
follow
think
it
this one's easy. Well, first of all, if you don't agree with me, I just don't know what you're even doing with any of my picks. But I think this one's pretty obvious. It's it's not AFO, it's not Shigaraki, but it's the AFO Shigaraki. Like the whatever the being that we want to call both of them together.
Shigafo.
No, veto that.
Come
Never
on.
say
It's
that.
AFO and Shigafo.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But
Oh,
so the reason why is because went plus ultra because literally it is the being is controlling 2 bodies doing a synchronous breakout of the world's greatest prison of all time. That's pretty plus ultra. That's pretty scary. And then also the wherewithal to like have the planning to like attack immediately after the fight, to where they would have 0 preparation at all to do this synchronous like prison break. Plus ultra. It's
Such
easy.
a good line too. Why do you think tomorrow gets to be just another day?
Yeah,
What
it's
a
pretty
great
badass.
fucking villain line. Like, you don't
Yeah.
he doesn't have many great like quotable lines. That is a quotable line that I remember at the end of the series. Because it's phenomenal. So I do have to agree. I think it's Shigafo for sure. There's no one else in the episode that could really live up to it. Not really much happens, and none of the other villains have done much. I think there might be a couple villain episodes here in a row that might get some love. But Shigafo definitely gets this one.
Stop saying it. You're not going to
I'm
make
saying
it. It's
it
not
as
gonna
many
happen.
times as possible. It's gonna catch on. It's like Fetch
Oh, I don't
or whatever the one is for Mean Girls.
It's Fetch, and it's never
Yeah.
gonna
The whole
happen.
point was it didn't catch on.
And James, you agree, or do you got something else?
No, I like Shigaraki / AFO because I was originally gonna give it
Come
to AFO because I like for really just like kind of like masterminding this whole like overtake and also, but like yeah, it is like a combined effort between the two of them, sort of. So I think yeah, that's definitely the road to go. Dude, honorable mention to my 2 8-iron boys who held the line for as long as they could. Those guys are really cool.
It looked
for,
like literally 30 seconds. They held the line for
like,
literally
they
30
It's a
seconds.
bunch of Nomus. Give my boys with Gatling guns a break, man. I just thought they were really cool design. I thought they were really cool.
I liked them.
For like the few minutes of fame they had.
Fun. All right, that is going to be it for this week's episode of the Class 1A podcast. Thank you all so much for watching or listening. You can keep up with us, everything that we do on twitter.com/class1apod or on youtube.com/class1a. So thank you all so much for listening. We will be back next Saturday for episode 16 of My Hero Academia season 6. See y'all then.